In recent months, I've stumbled down the rabbit hole that is the world of TikTok Live. The service's unique combination of instantaneous broadcasting from your phone, combined with site-wide discoverability directed to low-effort streams, has made the barrier to entry ridiculously low for this form of content creation. Add that to the fact that the main monetization for these creators is getting random passers-by to donate small monetary gifts, and it often turns into something akin to a beggar on a street corner holding a cardboard sign so you'll throw your spare change into their cup. Yes, if you boot up the TikTok app, you'll see countless e-beggars doing seemingly anything they can to get users to gift them a galaxy, and in the most extreme cases, these people become notorious for the lengths they'll go to avoid getting a real job, even if they'll need to grovel, plead, or flat out lie to get some of these sweet donations. Today we'll explore the most pathetic of said individuals. Before we dive any deeper in today's video though, I briefly want to talk about how important it is to protect your own digital footprint. When I'm trying to find archives for people that deleted most of their content, like some of the ones discussed in today's video, I need to know my connection is secure when browsing random links. That's why I genuinely recommend CyberGhost VPN. I want to be clear, this isn't just a regular ad. I really like this product and trust it to keep my browsing private. CyberGhost is one of the best VPNs in the world, trusted by over 38 million users. It also has an excellent rating on Trustpilot with over 23,000 reviews, so you know you're getting a top-tier service that actually works. It masks your IP address and encrypts your connection, making sure your online activity stays hidden from prying eyes. On top of this, I can also change my country of origin if I want to view region-locked material. And did I mention that you can have it running on up to 7 devices at the same time? Well, it can. Don't forget to click the link in the description down below to get a special discount for my subscribers. This application will protect your data while you browse and give you full access to all blocked content on the internet for only $2.03 a month. It's totally risk-free, so check the link in the description down below. Even the most inoffensive online content can manage to spark controversies, such as the case with Connor Hubbard. Under the username Hub's Life, Connor posted daily TikTok videos of his 9-to-5 life working in an office. While the content itself wasn't shocking by any means, it sparked feelings of extreme discomfort amongst many who watched it. Imagine living like this until you die. Horrifying! Connor's life as a 28-year-old working a dead-end office job sparked discourse around the shackles of societal conformity. For many, his life was a first-world nightmare, forced to relive the same day over and over again with little personal freedom. Connor did not see it that way, however, as he believed that there was much joy and comfort to be found in a simple and structured lifestyle. In his own words, his goal was to normalize the norm. His goal was never to become a successful influencer or build any sort of monetizable following. But the thing is, he became massively popular on both Instagram and TikTok. In May of 2023, he boasted a little over 50,000 followers, and by the end of 2024, he had nearly 800,000. As great as an accomplishment this was, it did come with its downsides. The daily 9-to-5 grind is enough to burn anyone out, but the addition of filming and editing his daily routine made the process completely untenable. By early 2025, Connor was left with two choices: either leave his job or end his content creation career. The influencer had frequently made it clear that his job was always going to be his top priority. "I wouldn't quit my job to do this full time. I love my 9-to-5 as it provides health insurance, steady income, 401k, structured career growth opportunities, etc. I enjoy the people I work with and genuinely like the work that I do." He even stated that he had previously quit a job to do social media and had a negative experience. After his statement, the choice seemed obvious, though Connor surprisingly did end up quitting his office job in favor of his newly found influencer status. The problem was evident right from the very beginning though. Connor was not a personality-driven creator and relied heavily on his niche and content structure to build a following. Abandoning his entire gimmick of being, a wagey to focus on TikTok was a counterintuitive decision that many found baffling. His focus began to shift toward his life as a self-employed person, whatever that's supposed to mean. Connor has frequently regarded his shift to full-time content creation as his new 9-to-5, and describes himself as building his business. It even appears he went out of his way to rent his office space and continued to commute just so he was able to work for his videos. It's hard to imagine what he needed this office space for, and it's likely he rented it out for the sole purpose of filming his commute there and then leaving immediately after. If this is the case, then any sense of authenticity was completely out of the window now, and viewers took note of this. This means content-wise, he was left with absolutely nothing, and those who once considered themselves fans now felt betrayed. Connor began seeing a drastic dip in viewership and engagement following this decision, and he took a massive financial hit as a result. This should have been the moment he realized his plan hadn't worked, and that it was time to head back to his old job. Sadly, Connor continued to make the worst decisions possible at every turn, going as far as begging for donations on TikTok Live.
I gotta get a Galaxy, guys. If I send me something, man. It's how I make it a living. I don't know if I saw a Galaxy come through, man. I can't answer any of these. You gotta send me a Galaxy, bro. Sam, thank you for the first gift. Roses on deck. I don't know. I think roses are like not a Galaxy. God, I want to answer all these questions, but I really can't right now. Sam, where's the Galaxy, bro? I'll answer like 10 questions if you send a Galaxy. You gotta send me a Galaxy or something. This is a lot more lucrative, and I get to work from anywhere in the world. Make money from my telephone. There are any investments other than 401k. You gotta send me a Galaxy and I'll answer that.
For those unaware, Galaxies are one of the many different gifts a TikTok creator can receive, which can be redeemed for real cash. Galaxies in particular would net Connor around 10 USD after TikTok takes their cuts, meaning that he was begging for pocket change just months after quitting his stable employment. As you can imagine, this received a massive amount of backlash. More specifically, people began to resent Connor for his decision. Seems like a regular-ass dude who accidentally hit the engagement jackpot for a year, then overplayed his hand by quitting to influence. He's too boring to be an influencer full-time. His friend group seems more image-obsessed, and they lack substance. To make up for this, most activities they do involve drinking. He isn't a tastemaker, and he doesn't have a niche to make up for it. In hindsight, it probably would have made more sense for Connor just to go to his boss and ask for a little bit of a pay decrease so he didn't have to work as many hours a day. But then again, that would still require him to have a job. Anyway, regarding begging for Galaxies, Connor attempted to quell the backlash by claiming that the money he earned was donated to the victims of the flood that had recently occurred in Central Texas, which many claim to be a blatant lie judging by his own statements.
Zach, I'm not begging for money, bro, but this is how I earn my living, so any little bit helps, man. I gotta get a Galaxy, guys, if you want me to answer the tough questions. I know that sounds like greedy and stuff, but again, this is how I'm making my living now, guys.
Connor seemingly never learned from his mistake and continues to prioritize being an influencer. Most of his viewers have lost interest, and those who remain are interested in simply gawking at his delusional behavior. He abandoned the sole point of interest in his content, and his personality simply wasn't enough to keep people around, allowing his most unsavory character traits to rise to the surface. What little discussion remains is extremely negative, and the only way out of this never-ending cycle is to stop begging on TikTok Live and get his old job back. Until then, Connor will continue to be one of the most prominent e-beggars on TikTok. That said, there are plenty of other worth discussing, and in spite of their lack of relevancy, they arguably are far more relentless in their efforts to internet panhandle, such as the case with anti-capitalist modern nomad Joanna Croppo. While many TikTok e-beggars emphasize their own personal needs, there are some who hide behind the guise of social activism and charity. They don't ask for money for themselves, but rather to help them support the lives of others. This would be relatively inoffensive, if it were genuine, of course. However, for our next subject, Joanna, her activism and commitment to assisting others seem to be nothing more than a thinly veiled facade to personally enrich herself. This story begins long before her TikTok, where we see her asking for GoFundMe donations in 2020. I'm a trans woman starting a campaign to open an LGBTQIA+ community center and living space for all ages in Grand Junction, Colorado. Any and all help would be greatly appreciated. The GoFundMe page has since been deleted, and by all accounts it appears this community center never came to fruition. It's been asserted by some that Joanna pocketed whatever money was donated to fund her personal lifestyle, though I couldn't find any concrete proof in either direction. While she had not established herself as a scam artist quite yet, she made no effort to hide her greater eccentricities on Reddit. I'm currently eating my wife's placenta. Ask me anything. There was my wife who ate it for nutritional reasons. Me who ate it for spiritual reasons. Her boyfriend ate a piece out of curiosity. And my girlfriend ate it for the experience. She birthed in a pool in our dining room with a bunch of family and our older kids. We seasoned it with fajita seasoning packets and cooked everything together with peppers and onions. It was so cool. I want to make it clear now because I looked into it myself, this woman is not trolling. On top of her fine dining experiences, she also documented her life as a dirty kid. For those unaware, a dirty kid is a sort of modern nomad who travels across the country, surviving by hitchhiking, couch hopping, and panhandling to sustain themselves. The name comes from the fact that they do not bathe and typically have a terrible body odor. For all intents and purposes, it is essentially self-inflicted homelessness under the facade of a counterculturalist lifestyle. Joanna, however, was among the upper class, living in her very own van with her 2 pet dogs. Unfortunately, tragedy would strike and her mobile domicile would catch on fire after an electrical issue.
This is my own private domicile and I will not be harassed!
Once again, Joanna set up a GoFundMe to recoup her losses and purchase a new van. It's uncertain how much money she was able to raise, but she was eventually able to acquire a brand new van 2 weeks later. In a Reddit comment, she reveals that she had no steady income, but that's not to say she didn't have methods to make some quick cash. In 2021, Joanna would create a third GoFundMe, this time with what she called the Dirty Kid Rescue Team. Joanna had since ditched her van and managed to get her hands on an old school bus, using it to drive around the country to, quote, provide mutual aid to travelers, hitchhikers, rubber tramps, and train hoppers. Joanna holds the belief that helping others in need is a virtue, and what better way to do that than with other people's money. She was surprisingly able to raise over $2,000 and surpass her goal to help make repairs to her bus. She was able to crowdsource money in large part thanks to her following on TikTok, which consisted mostly of homeless people and those sympathetic to her efforts. As mentioned prior, Joanna has no stable income and is only able to sustain herself by digitally panhandling. So when she couldn't find a justifiable reason to create a new crowdsourcing campaign, she would frequently make calls to action for donations both in videos and in live streams.
Dirty Kid Rescue Team's about to be on a mission, family. Starting tomorrow, we're going to be heading from Eugene, Oregon, down to New Orleans, Louisiana, to make sure that people have hot meals, blankets, clothes, sleeping bags, anything they need to stay warm and happy, healthy, alive, and thriving.
As you can imagine, as Joanna's platform grew, people became frustrated with her frequent requests for donations. That being said, at least Joanna was trying her best to help those in need and provide safe travel and shelter to those less fortunate. Or at least that's how it seemed at first. I say this because a fellow nomad would eventually speak out about the Dirty Kid Rescue Team and Joanna's private transgressions in a video uploaded in late 2022. The individual claims that the bus itself was extremely dangerous and likely suffered from a litany of mechanical issues. What's more, it's alleged that Joanna sparsely provided the mutual aid she claimed to be offering. In reality, she had been pocketing most of the donations she received for herself, as opposed to feeding and providing for the fellow dirty kids. To make matters worse, it's alleged that the vehicle suffered an outbreak of canine parvovirus, causing multiple dogs living on the bus to pass away without proper access to medical treatment. The most damning of the allegations is that the 30-year-old Joanna had been inappropriately engaging with a 17-year-old. The minor had supposedly been attempting to flee a tumultuous family living situation and hoped to find safety amongst the rescue team. During this vulnerable time, Joanna allegedly began a sexual relationship with the troubled teen. This is only the tip of the iceberg, as a litany of other antisocial behaviors are alleged, such as abandoning fellow dirty kids without warning, abandoning old buses and other people's properties, and refusing to pay back borrowed money. Who would have thought this woman was a freeloader? Joanna responded to this post with a video of her own. She goes on to state that most of the claims are lies, and refuses to address anything she claims is not true. The only thing she acknowledges is the fact that she left behind an individual by mistake and confirmed that her dog had passed away from an illness. She fails to address the allegations of grooming or that she pocketed mutual aid money for herself.
I'm not worried about the lies because I know that my character and the person that I am are going to show through and show the quality of who I am and my integrity as a human being.
One would think that at the very least she would acknowledge the claims and deny them, but Joanna directly avoids even mentioning what they are, which does not bode well for her case. Regardless, this situation only heightened the growing negative sentiment towards her. Her lifestyle and frequent e-begging was already divisive enough, but things were worse than ever. Over the years, life on a bus was beginning to become unstable. As mentioned prior, she had abandoned multiple other vehicles in the past when they stopped working, and it was only a matter of time before her current domicile would break down as well. By late 2023, her final bus was towed away, never to be seen again, and she eventually found herself living on the streets before securing an apartment. Her content now shifted away from her nomadic mutual aid adventures to her daily life at home. What remained was her penchant for e-begging, as she still had no intention of actually, getting a job. Of course, panhandling was not a reliable way to afford rent, and she eventually found herself once again drifting around and crashing on couches. The rest of Joanna's story is much of the same, and she consistently draws attention for her ridiculous requests for money. Most recently, she has made yet another GoFundMe, seeking $2,200 to help pay for a dilapidated shack partially made out of plywood. In spite of only raising a couple $100, it appears that Joanna has since moved into the home with her partner, drawing into question why she even needed to do a GoFundMe in the first place. The most recent activity on her account shows her illegally riding a cargo train somewhere near Odessa, Texas, indicating that she was no longer able to afford the $500 monthly lot fees for her shack and was forced to move. Joanna seems to be returning to her nomadic life, although her content output has notably dipped, and her efforts with the Dirty Kid rescue team have ceased entirely. It goes without saying that Joanna is a unique example of a TikTok e-beggar. However, there are much more subtle examples, such as the stay-at-home mommy vlogger Mama Kelsey. On the surface, Mama Kels, aka Kelsey, is just another family creator focused around her life as a busy mother of 6. That is until you look a bit closer and see how she spends her time complaining about one of her 4 baby daddies. That's right, Kelsey has mothered 6 children between 4 different men, all of which she seems to have a messy relationship with. The mom went viral in March of 2025 when she posted her baby daddy reveal to TikTok, in which she admitted to having awful taste in men. This statement may seem like a self-deprecating joke, but we'll soon come to realize just how terrible her judgment is when selecting a partner.
My baby daddy drama lore is dark and deep and insane.
To sustain herself, her children, and current baby daddy Brian, Kelsey spends most of her time on TikTok Live, so much so that she developed a reputation for always being on the app. More specifically, she is well known for constantly e-begging, albeit in a more indirect way than usual. You see, Kelsey makes frequent use of wish lists, in which people purchase pre-selected gifts to be delivered right to her doorstep. This behavior becomes particularly egregious around her children's birthdays. She often crafts a tragic story about her kids' lack of extended family, and calls on her TikTok family to step up to the plate.
While her biological family doesn't give a fuck, her TikTok aunties do. And I made her a birthday wish list. It's in my bio. So if you want to send her something for her 5th birthday, she will absolutely be tickled to have packages come to the door for her birthday.
In this case, viewers who felt sorry for the young girl flocked to the Amazon wish list and bought out the entire catalog. This was not a one-time occurrence, and Kelsey has made countless other wish lists for her children, as well as family friends. She argues that there is nothing wrong with this because no one is being forced to contribute, and she doesn't personally benefit from the donations.
Why are you mad that people want to send kids birthday presents? They're not paying my bills. They're toys for a kid.
This argument falls flat when you consider that her audience footing the bill for her children's birthday relieves her of the financial obligation to purchase presents, and in turn makes it easier for her to afford non-necessities with the savings. Something also worth noting is that Kelsey and Brian have continued to produce children over the years, and also created a public baby shower registry for their 7th and 8th children.
Our followers bought over $900 worth of stuff off of Baby Camden's registry. I am so overwhelmed.
These gifts included various articles of clothing, bottles, a baby monitor, and breast pumps, necessary expenses that undeniably save her hundreds of dollars. Just as with the birthdays, Kelsey will create sob stories to emotionally incentivize people to help her, when she could, just stop having kids. More specifically, she will go out of her way to catastrophize every possible thing she can in the hopes that people will feel more sympathy. One of the most recent examples of this is her crowdsourcing $17,000 to pay for her son's medical bills. The child, not even a year old yet, was born with a left clubbed foot, which has required a handful of different medical procedures, including surgery. This is undeniably tragic. The mother claimed it was impossible for her to cover the medical costs, and expressed concern that her son's condition could result in him being unable to walk if went untreated. The GoFundMe created has since been deleted, and no archives remain. That said, a separate crowdsourcing campaign remains active on the website Spot Fund for the clubfoot as well, in which we see the goal of $15,000. Keep in mind that Kelsey admits to not even having a consultation appointment yet, begging the question as to how she came up with this figure. I should also mention that the full total coverage was eventually revealed to just be $3,000. What's more, Kelsey has passively mentioned that her family is on Medicaid, which would undeniably cover a medical situation of this nature. The issue is that her preferred doctor is outside of her coverage. Of course, she's well within her right to be picky about her child's healthcare, but to guilt users on TikTok into paying the difference rubbed many the wrong way. This type of behavior has attracted a healthy dose of negative reception, and driven by resentment, people began digging into her personal life. And let's just say there were far more egregious behaviors happening behind the scenes. As mentioned prior, Kelsey has 4 separate baby daddies and personally described her taste in men as poor. This statement would age terribly, as internet sleuths discovered her husband Brian was a registered sex offender and was charged with battery and molestation of a minor. People were outraged, both by Brian and Kelsey. She already had kids when she welcomed Brian into her home, which many believed was putting them in danger. Don't worry though, Kelsey was quick to clap back and defend her sex offender husband. He was 18 at a party and 2 consenting teenagers slept together, because that's what he thought. She told him she was older, there's nothing more to it. He served his time, he's passed everything he needed to. He isn't a danger to anyone, and offenders are very different. I've been covering dysfunctional people on this channel long enough that I've realized the trend that whenever someone is a registered sex offender but no one knows the exact details, they'll always say that they were only 18 years old and the other person just barely was illegal. Kelsey has frequently defended Brian on these allegations, indicating that she was willing to look past his sex offender status, because, no one's perfect. That being said, she would eventually grow to resent Brian and officially file for divorce after she discovered he had been cheating on her.
I found out at 3 a.m. this morning that my husband has been cheating on me.
It must suck to be an incel and see that registered sex offenders get more play than you. Now that the two were separating, Kelsey was no longer capable of supporting herself as a stay-at-home mother, so she naturally did what she had become well known to do. The entire focus of her content now shifted to her struggle as a heartbroken single mom, once again leaning into drama in the hopes of garnering sympathy. Say what you want about Kelsey, but there's no denying that she knows how to package her efforts in the most natural ways possible. Because subtlety is not always a common trait of those who spend their time asking for money on the internet. Our next subject, Winston Cave, is a completely different story, so disconnected with reality that he managed to become a living meme in the process of begging for money online. Odds are that if you've been on the internet over the last 5 years, you have likely seen this legendary clip.
Donald Trump, if you can hear us, please, Donald Trump, please save me. Please save me, Donald Trump, please.
This now iconic meme of a man praying to President Donald Trump while being arrested has been mocked and satirized to death over the last few years. But the man behind the meme, Winston Cave, has garnered himself a reputation far before his arrest in Texas in September of 2019. Particularly, he became well known for his many arrests, public meltdowns, and his propensity to beg for financial support on TikTok Live. At one point, Winston was a family man, though his life would take a turn for the worse when he purchased a custom Ford F-350 in 2017. Aptly named the Joker 76, the truck featured iconography associated with the well-known DC supervillain. It had become particularly infamous in the online truck community, and Winston inherited a small following online after purchasing the vehicle. However, Winston had a particular propensity for speeding, which resulted in him being pulled over numerous times, all of which he recorded and uploaded to the internet. Instead of just, slowing down, his frequent traffic infractions led Winston to believe that he was being gang-stalked by the local police, and his mental health began to rapidly decline as the months went on, resulting in an eventual separation from his wife, Shannon, and estrangement from his family. Things came to a head at the Lone Star Throwdown 2018, an annual truck event hosted in the state of Texas. Winston, who intended to show off his new and improved Joker 76 at the meetup, made the careless decision to drive drunk and ended up crashing. The vehicle rolled over and was completely totaled, leaving Winston with nothing. In spite of his ill-defined source of income, Winston was eventually able to acquire a new truck. How he was able to afford this is uncertain, but it's unlikely he purchased it without a high-interest loan. Now estranged from his wife, he was forced to live inside his truck for the foreseeable future. The wreck marked a turning point for Winston's online behavior, choosing to livestream far more frequently and ask for donations from his viewers. It's worth clarifying that while Winston did utilize TikTok for this purpose, a majority of his activity was actually on Instagram. You see, his frequent emotional outbursts and liberal use of swear words made it impossible to maintain an account on TikTok without it getting banned, forcing him to eventually abandon the platform altogether. It should also be clarified that Winston does not directly ask for money itself. More specifically, he requests love from his supporters. Those who send him money, aka love, are lovers, and everyone else is a hater.
Hey guys, it's Winston. That's right, I said it again, you fucking haters. I love you lovers. I even love you fucking haters. You know why? Because you can't fuck with me, you can't fucking touch me, and my balls are bigger than you.
To make matters worse, a new swath of internet trolls found him after the accident. This caused him to become much more hostile, aggressive, and angry. Whenever he didn't get enough donations, he began violently screaming at his viewers, both at his haters for not sending him love, as well as his lovers for not sending him enough money.
And it's sad because it seems like all my lovers ain't got a fucking thing to give. But they're giving me what they can. I guarantee you that's what they're doing. Please don't fucking Venmo me $1, okay? No disrespect, but I can't do shit with $1.
This would be Winston's life for the next few years, begging for love on Instagram and even getting arrested a handful more times for various offenses. Notably, he was detained by police after threatening the staff of his daughter's middle school. He was charged with making a terroristic threat in violation of an emergency protective order after insinuating that he had a firearm in his possession.
Hey guys, if you're not on my YouTube, you better hurry up and get over there. I'm right here live on my YouTube channel. It's Winston Cave. Got important news. It's live going on right now. I'm at my kid's school. The cops are already on their way. They're actually putting the school lockdown right now, just because they wouldn't let my kids come out here.
Of course, the aforementioned arrest in which he cried out for Donald Trump occurred a short while after this. It's not entirely certain what the law he had violated to result in this detention, but it is widely believed that the man had multiple warrants for his arrest. This isn't a stretch of the imagination by any means, as Winston's mental health continued to regress and his public outbursts became increasingly violent. He notably had a public meltdown in a post office as a result of his inability to receive a package he had been anticipating.
Ma'am, are you the boss? I asked for a boss! Fuck off! See what I mean? People, man! Fuck you in the fucking ass, stupid bitch! All I asked is for a fucking boss, and nobody can fucking give me one! Fuck you! You fuck with the wrong motherfucker, United States Post Office! Vista, Texas!
Large gaps in online activity mark the points in which Winston was behind bars, which was a relatively frequent occurrence as you can imagine. Whenever he was out of jail, he was right back to live streaming on Instagram and begging for donations. To make matters worse, his mental state showed no signs of improving, and many of Winston's closest observers suspected he was frequently under the influence of drugs. Eventually, after being arrested yet again, the troubled Texan found himself homeless and living on the streets by late 2019. With circumstances like these, there was little he could do aside from asking for more money on Venmo. After a few more months of frequent online activity, Winston suddenly vanished, and would not return to the internet for over 2 years. It's unknown where he was during this time, though many assumed either a mental asylum, rehab, or prison. You would think Winston's break would allow him to mentally reset, but sadly it appeared that he was worse than ever. He became fully convinced he was being gang-stalked, and became extremely paranoid that he was constantly being followed.
Y'all following me? Yeah, any of y'all? Are y'all following me? You are? Shoot you right here, dude. You stupid motherfucker. See what I'm saying? He might not understand what I'm saying. I better not be following me, dude. Motherfucker, follow me. If I catch any of y'all following me, I'll shoot right between the fucking eyes, dude.
This behavior was obviously unsustainable, and it was only a matter of time before the police would be called yet again. The final straw was an instance in which he pulled a gun on an innocent man that he believed was following him. The police swarmed his truck, ultimately charging him with multiple felonies, and was sentenced to 40 months in prison. Fortunately, this story ends on a relatively positive note. After his release, it appears that Winston finally got his act together and is doing much better mentally. He no longer live streams daily, and by all accounts, he has managed to stay out of handcuffs. Only one element of his personality remains, that being his e-begging habits. In his most recent posts, both his Cash App and Venmo are prominently displayed as watermarks, although I have to admit it's far less egregious than before. As it would turn out, Winston equating financial support as love is surprisingly not a unique perspective, as another TikToker, Chef Carleone, has also begged for love while living as a quote-unquote homeless person. When it comes to TikTok e-beggars, there is typically some form of plausible deniability with their behavior. Both the creators as well as their most sympathetic viewers are often empowered to create some kind of justification and defense for their frequent panhandling. That being said, some make their deeper intentions no secret at all, and their entire content focuses solely on e-begging. That was the case with Chef Carleone, or as his detractors call him, Chef Carl. The second you visit his TikTok account, it's impossible to not notice that most of his posts aren't videos at all, but rather singular still images with text. Emergency, I'm homeless on the street. Please help me get an Airbnb or hotel room. Please donate any amount. Info in bio. Carl is completely unwilling to record a simple video of himself begging for donations, and chooses to just copy and paste the same text message every single day. That said, he does occasionally find the motivation to make an on-screen appearance.
Hey everybody, here's an update. I'm homeless.
Unfortunately for Carl, the lucrative practice of TikTok live streaming requires him to be present and active for his viewers, and thus he is much more prominent when begging for money to live audiences.
So if you can send 10, 20, 50, 100, 500, whatever, 5,000, whatever you got, send it, please. 24 hours a day, man.
As you can see, this is far more blatant than any other individual discussed thus far. Because of this, there is a far more unified and concentrated stance against Carl, which culminated in a Change.org petition calling for his permanent suspension from TikTok.
My main goal and the whole reason why this is for me to buy a car outright with some insurance and some money and get a place to live so I won't be homeless anymore. It's at least $20K.
The man directly admits the only reason he uses TikTok is to receive donations, which is a flagrant violation of the platform's terms of service, resulting in numerous accounts he owns being banned. Regardless, he manages to survive on various other accounts that have managed to dodge any repercussions. Carl has two types of financial needs: daily expenses and long-term expenses. His long-term goals are to be able to purchase a permanent place to live, which he estimates will cost around $35,000. The short-term expenses amount to things like food, his phone bill, and money to purchase hotel rooms. Carl's priorities are completely out of whack, and even when his bank account is $500 in the red, he emphasizes the importance of trivial things like getting a pack of cigarettes.
And there's a few $100 in there, so I can pay the $150 cell phone bill, get something to eat, buy some cigarettes. And then more than that to help me get a room or something. I don't know.
Suffice to say, the homeless man is completely incapable of being financially responsible, which explains why he has been destitute for the better half of a decade. In times of true desperation, Carl has even sought the aid of none other than Mr. Beast himself, who he believed could save him with his vast wealth and large fan base on YouTube.
This is Chef Carleon. Mr. Beast, if you see this video, please help me. I am homeless and I need your help. Please go to my bio.
A word that Carl frequently uses is emergency. Paying his phone bill, getting a bite to eat, and filling his car with gas are all urgent matters that must be attended to as soon as possible. He takes the idea of an emergency situation to a whole new level when the donations aren't coming in, going as far as faking heart attacks while streaming. After Carl has his heart attack, he wipes the sweat from his brow and acts as if nothing ever happened. It's worth noting that no one in the livestream chat is taking him seriously, spamming laughing emojis and accusing him of faking his condition. Seeing this, you have to wonder how Carl is able to convince anyone to send him donations. And from what I understand, the ones who give him money are people that don't know his backstory but just stumbled upon one of his streams and feel bad. As if it couldn't get any worse, Carl has even resorted to faking his own death, placing the blame on those who refused to donate to him. If you're reading this, I'm dead. It's your fault for not donating and helping me when I needed it. Please donate in the top 4 ways. All proceeds go towards Hurricane Helen relief. Behavior like this can be described in one simple word: delusional. Carl is so delusional, in fact, that he went as far as visiting a restaurant and ordering a meal without the proper funds. He live-streamed his dining experience and asked for donations to cover the bill, which outraged viewers, leading to a handful of individuals calling the establishment and warning them of Carl's presence.
Until, hey, is there a problem over here? Hey man, how are you? Is there a problem over here? No. How are you doing? What's with the live stream? What's that? What's with the live stream? Yeah, it's called TikTok. Okay, and you're not going to pay for your food, or? Sorry? I've gotten 5 phone calls already over your comments when you're talking about our waitresses. No, don't listen to them, they're haters.
As you can see, Carl is not humbly requesting assistance. He quite literally feels entitled to the charity of others. When people tell him to get a job at a restaurant since he is a chef after all, this entitlement leads him to have belligerent emotional outbursts as a result. More tame examples involve him flipping off the camera, while others culminate in full-blown mental breakdowns, in which he relentlessly swears at his audience.
Now, this sole purpose of this room is for me to get help and not be homeless no more as soon as possible. If you're not here to fucking help me, get the fuck out of here and fuck off. I'm sick and tired of your bullshit. That's the sole purpose of this room, is for me to get some help. Go to the bio, the top 4 ways, and send some help. If you ain't doing that, fuck off and get the fuck out of my room.
Carl has a short list of rules for his live streams, the most ridiculous being that you are not allowed to report him for terms of service violations. Other rules include being nice to him and not screen recording his live streams. Of course, the most important rule is that you must donate to him to be a viewer, otherwise you must leave immediately. It's uncertain if Carl has ever used TikTok for anything other than e-begging, as his earliest documented behavior online consists solely of asking for money. Moreover, what led to his status as a homeless person is not entirely certain, and whether or not he is truly homeless is a prominent discussion amongst his detractors. Some argue that Carl is pretending to make some extra cash. What's more, many have noticed that Carl has gotten significantly fatter over the years, indicating that he is eating a surplus of calories, atypical for someone that claims to be starving. On top of this, Carl avoids receiving help directly. Rather than someone paying for his hotel room, he prefers that you send him money so he can buy it himself. Ultimately, these theories remain as unproven rumors, although many maintain the belief that Carl is a full-blown scam artist. He continues to live stream and post updates as recently as 2026, and it's uncertain when or if he will ever stop the behavior. Chef Carl is one of the most unrelenting and shameless e-beggars on all of TikTok. However, you might be surprised that it gets even darker than this. That's because one of the most tragic examples of this growing trend is Lisa Richard, whose addiction to drugs continues to be enabled by her online following. It goes without saying that someone who spends their time panhandling online is not the most mentally stable. That being said, Lisa Richards is undeniably the most mentally dysfunctional e-beggar on the internet. She flew under the radar for some time before people began discussing her on websites like Reddit. One of the earliest posts claimed that Lisa was asking for donations on TikTok Live, specifically claiming to be a nurse with no proof. This obviously makes no sense, as someone with a full-time job working as a nurse likely wouldn't have time to beg for money on the internet, nor would they need to resort to such behavior in the first place. Those familiar with Lisa began sharing their personal experiences of her behavior. One user claimed that a viewer sent her $5 over Cash App, and she repaid their kindness by quickly requesting another $20. Others claimed that they had personally contacted the hospital she said she worked at and confirmed that she was not employed there. More broadly, there was an overwhelming narrative that she spent most of her time on TikTok Live asking for donations, often creating sob stories in the hopes of gaining sympathy. We can only take these claims with a grain of salt though, as Lisa has a long history of being banned from the platform and creating new accounts, making archives of her earlier online activities difficult to find. That being said, many of these claims seem relatively believable the deeper I dived into her history. Lisa constantly states that any donation is greatly appreciated, no matter how big or small. However, she has been known to lash out at anyone who sends her small donations with verbal insults.
Nobody sent anything, not even $1. I don't even have anything. Nothing. Nothing. Woohoo, I got $1. Now I'm at 6. I was not being sarcastic at all.
It seems there is always something with Lisa. There is always an urgent small expense that needs to be taken care of, whether it be a ride on the bus or a visit to the hospital, which she supposedly worked at. Worst of all, there is no level Lisa won't stoop to in order to farm donations, going as far as lying about her 10-year-old son having terminal brain cancer.
What did I do to deserve my son dying of stage 3 brain cancer?
Shockingly, uncovering the truth wasn't difficult at all, as Lisa would later go on to admit that she made up the story to afford her children presents for Christmas.
Whenever you said that your son had brain cancer, was that true?
No.
No. Okay. So you just were desperate for money?
Yes, desperate for money for Christmas.
Many have their doubts about this claim, with the leading theory being that Lisa simply wanted money to buy drugs. This argument is best supported by none other than Lisa's own sister, Ronnie, who directly confirmed her addiction and accused those who sent her money as being enablers.
This is what you guys are supporting. Do you see this? Do you see the way that she is absolutely passed out? When I walked up those steps, I honestly thought that she was no longer with us. I tried to wake her several times, and all I got was a bunch of mumbling, and she couldn't even wake up and actually acknowledge that I was there. So this right here is what you guys are supporting when you are sending her money or making excuses for her.
Lisa makes no effort in trying to hide her deeper intentions, even calling her drug dealer on the phone in front of her audience.
Yes. Alright. I'm not. I know.
As extreme as lying about your son having cancer for drug money is, there also is a healthy dose of low-stakes situations she is more than willing to fabricate. For example, Lisa will break down into tears as she begs for more money to buy an Uber. Sympathetic viewers feel compelled to help, and since the thing she's asking for is a relatively cheap expense, it almost feels immoral to not capitulate and send some cash.
It's pretty bad getting on here, especially when you just need, $10-15, and then you don't even get it, So life's not too good right now, that's all.
She is also willing to lie about things that are obviously untrue, such as claiming she has no electricity while in a fully lit room.
This is the Cash App. This is the Cash App. This is the Cash App, please. I have no food, no electric, no more cigarettes, no nothing.
It goes without saying that Lisa is an extremely mentally troubled person, and in a sense, you have to feel some amount of pity for her. She is an inconsolable drug addict, whose behavior has only become worse due to the unrelenting trolling she experiences. This is why her sister Ronnie, as well as her other sister Jess, have been so outspoken publicly. Typically, when people call for a TikTok e-beggar to be suspended by the platform, it is out of spite and discontent. In this case, though, there is a large movement of people advocating for Lisa's deplatforming out of genuine concern. Multiple petitions have been created amounting to over 6,000 total signatures, with the general sentiment that Lisa cannot recover as long as she remains on the platform. Lisa experiences a level of emotional distress not present in other examples discussed in this video. She often breaks down into tears out of genuine concern for her well-being. Of course, most of these concerns boil down to whether or not she will be able to get high that day, but the emotional reaction is genuine regardless. To this day, she continues to beg for money on the internet, and it is yet to be seen if she will ever make changes for the better. While there may be some form of sympathy warranted for Lisa's situation, the same cannot be said for our next e-beggar. Jordan Paul is self-described as gay AF and emphasizes the importance of positivity in his TikTok bio. Initially, these two factors seem to be the central focus of her content output, uploading what can only be described as lesbian thirst traps. But as the years went on and her following grew to over 10,000, she began utilizing her newly found micro-celebrity status to ask for donations. At first, it was just the occasional request for extra money to get something to eat, but as the behavior ramped up in consistency, people would become agitated and begin discussing her on TikTok gossip forums. Jordan's strategy was relatively simple. She claimed to have congestive heart failure, which she brought up casually while making more reasonable requests. She wasn't asking people to help with medical expenses or hospital bills, but rather a few bucks to pick up her medication and buy her dog some food. This wouldn't be entirely offensive if she hadn't been doing this for months now. Viewers noted that whenever they checked out one of her streams, her sole focus was asking for money.
I'm trying to raise the last $77 so I can get the hotel room for me and my two dogs so we'll have somewhere to stay. If anybody please be willing to donate, that's my Cash App.
You see, Jordan began living in her car sometime around 2022 and 2023. As a result, she would take to her TikTok live every day asking for money for a hotel room. Some viewers suggested that she become a lot lizard.
Be a lot lizard? That's disgusting. And that's pretty f***ed up for you to try and tell somebody to prostitute themselves. You are disgusting. That's disgusting. I'm sorry. Nope.
Beyond this, any form of employment at all seemed to be completely off the table for Jordan. She has claimed over the years that she did in fact have a job, although it's quite obvious that this was not the case considering her constant lack of funds and unrelenting presence on TikTok. What's more is that Jordan was completely incapable of maintaining a stable living environment. Not only did she expect that every small expense be covered by her TikTok audience, she also fully entrusted them to cover her rent. This obviously dysfunctional thought process has resulted in Jordan being kicked out of multiple different apartments, as many as 3 times in just 1 year. Jordan claimed that this was because the building was deemed unsafe by inspectors and forced to shut down, denying the idea that she was simply not paying rent. By all accounts, this is simply not the case, as the complex still operates to this very day. It's unlikely that she simply was unable to afford her rent payments, and was served papers to vacate the premises. She was evicted once again a few months later in November and a third time in May of 2024. Her tumultuous living situation now became the primary focus of both her reputation and her content. If she wasn't begging for rent, she was begging for a hotel room. On top of this, Jordan would make content involving her many court appearances, particularly in regards to an encounter she had with one of her landlords. In November of 2024, police responded to Jordan's apartment after a 911 call. Jordan claims that her landlord knocked on her door to collect rent and kick her out for being late on payments. Jordan pleaded with the landlord to allow her to stay, but they were having none of it. He then allegedly forced open the door, knocked Jordan to the ground, and violently assaulted her. She then used her iPhone's Siri function to call the police, which infuriated the man even further. The suspect then threw Jordan down the stairs and stole her phone. As you could probably guess, Jordan used all of this as an opportunity to throw a pity party for herself. She needed money once again, not for court cases, but for some extra pocket change to pay for food. A short legal battle ensued, with the courts ultimately siding against Jordan. The process for eviction was filed in February of 2025, and she was once again back on the streets. She had become increasingly desperate in recent times, taking advantage of those foolish enough to help her in the first place. It has been documented that Jordan will send previous donors PayPal requests for hundreds of dollars at a time, with a sob story attached in the hopes of coercing them. "Please, they are about to call the cops! They are kicking us out! Please! I'll lose my dogs and everything, they will take them!" In spite of this, Jordan continues to insist that she has a real job, putting in extra effort to make it believable. She began live streaming herself at work, in which she can be seen wearing a headset and clacking away at a keyboard. She claimed to be employed as a customer service representative, although she never seems to have taken calls during these live streams. While most 9-to-5s don't even allow you to scroll Instagram, Jordan's manager apparently gave her full permission to stream during her shift and swear loudly in the office. Understandably, most were not convinced of this charade. Jordan has become one of the most infamous e-beggars and scammers on TikTok, and an entire snark subreddit has been created documenting her every move. In the hopes of avoiding her detractors, Jordan has moved away from her primary accounts to a backup one in the hopes of having a fresh start. She continues to ask for hotel money for herself and 2 dogs, while constantly affirming that she intends to get a new apartment once again. My condolences to her next landlord. If she does manage to find a new place to live, it's only a matter of time before she's evicted once more, begging the question if she will ever truly learn her lesson. And with that, I think I learned why I find all of these people so fascinating. What truly makes a TikTok e-beggar captivating isn't just the act of asking for money. Rather, it's the antisocial behaviors that come along with it. The lies, the emotional manipulation, and the many interpersonal struggles all seem to be inherent for the average online panhandler. The type of people with a propensity for fiscal irresponsibility are unsurprisingly dysfunctional in every other aspect of their life, creating a sort of makeshift freak show on the World Wide Web. This growing issue is emblematic of the state of social media itself, in which we now have access to a wide array of different people we otherwise would not have ever met. Likewise, the most dysfunctional members of society now have a lifeline to sympathetic strangers they can exploit for their own benefit. As long as these types of individuals increase screen time, TikTok has no incentive to put a stop to it. And as long as people are willing to send money to desperate strangers, there will always be another e-beggar waiting to capitalize on it.
Why don't you get a job?
Thank you for watching today, and don't forget to click on the description link to get the special discount CyberGhost VPN is granting to our channel users.